Hello to all you federal employees out there watching this. You guys are looking amazing. And let's get into this week's topic. And this is a handful of things, miscellaneous things that you should always check. Always check before you retire, or best case, even a couple years before retirement. I mean, best case, you check these things all throughout your career, but let's be real. Most people don't think about retirement. They don't want to plan for retirement until they get really close to retirement. Obviously, that's not ideal, right? I wish my clients sometimes would have thought about this just a few years earlier. Or, I mean, if they started at the beginning of their career, their retirement picture could look so different. That's just the truth, right? If we all started younger, it would look better. But we can't go back in time. We can only go with what we have now and move forward. So here I have a list of a handful of things that you should always check before you get to retirement, right? Ideally, a few years, but if you're close to retirement, please check them, especially before you put in your retirement application. Okay, number one. Number one is your date of birth. So, okay, when I'm talking about these things and telling you to check them, I'm talking about in your official personnel folder, okay? For most people, it's an online thing where all your forms, all your SF50s, everything is in that folder. So when I tell you to check these things, I'm telling you in that folder, go look at these things, make sure they're correct, so they do all the calculations for your retirement the right way, okay? First, date of birth. If they do not have your date of birth right, and you think, of course they have my date of birth right, don't they? Well, sometimes they make a mistake. It has happened many times. So make sure it's right, because that is how your pension is calculated, and that is how a lot of things are calculated. Make sure that is correct. Number two, pay changes. So to calculate your high three, which is a component of your pension, right? How that's calculated is based on when you had different pay changes. And if those are not all on your SF50s, you want to go through at the different changes, make sure they are all written at the right times, they happen at the right times, all those things, so that your high three is calculated correctly. Let me tell you this. It is very rare that they make a mistake in favor of you. Meaning, it's very rare they're like, oh wow, we had thought you had 25 years of service and you only had 20, right? It's very rare that happens. Usually what happens is they say, oh no, we show you only have 18 years of service while you actually have 20, right? They usually underestimate because there's usually something missing, is usually what happens. So it is in your best interest to go in and make sure these things are correct. Okay, next, service date. So this really goes along with your pay changes, but basically make sure all of your SF50s for your entire career are in there and that the dates are correct, that the day you started is correct and there's no gaps in those SF50s till the day you retire. Of course, if you had a gap in service, that'd be different, but you want to make sure every time you are working for a government agency as a federal employee civilian that it is documented correctly. Okay, next, beneficiaries. Okay, I hand on this one a lot. So you probably heard this if you listen to me at all. And that is make sure your beneficiaries are correct. And that is on your TSP, that's on your pension, that's on any other benefit that you have or any other asset that you have, life insurance, your FEGLI, all those things, you have to make sure that your beneficiaries are correct. And let me tell you why. Because regardless of what you put in your will, regardless of what is anywhere else, whoever is on that line and says they are a beneficiary, even if they are an ex-wife, an ex-girlfriend, an ex-boyfriend, whatever, they are going to get that account or whatever it is. It will go to the beneficiary, and that has been upheld by just about every court out there. So you want to keep that updated as you have kids, as you get married, as you get divorced, as things happen in your life, that you get these updated immediately, because life happens and you forget, right? Things happen and then emergencies come up. People die. Things happen, come up in life, and if you don't have your T's crossed, your I's dotted before, then it gets really messy, right? Sometimes the people that need, whether it's your TSP or anything, the most don't get it because things were not done properly. So I don't want to really gloom up this whole video, but make sure your beneficiaries are up to date so that this is not an issue for you. Okay, health insurance. Yes. So ideally, this is one that you think about at least 5 years before you retire, because your FEHB, your health insurance, your health benefits, is one of your best benefits as a federal employee. It is worth so much. The Fed pays a huge portion of your premium, and if you were to go out into the real world, the private world, and get a health plan, health insurance that was comparable, you'd be paying through the nose, right? So into retirement, being able to keep that benefit is incredibly important. And the only way to keep that, benefit is if you were enrolled in it for at least 5 years before you retire. Now, if you were enrolled into TRICARE, right? As long as you enroll into FEHB in the last year, right, the last little bit, you're enrolled in FEHB when you retire, and TRICARE actually fills up the rest of the 5 years, that'll be okay. But other than that, you won't be eligible to keep your FEHB into retirement if that's not covered, those 5 years before retirement. So make sure that is on your record, and if you haven't had it during those 5 years, then maybe think about working a little longer, something, if you need that coverage. It's usually super important for most people's financial lives, but make sure you have it all kind of figured out for you. Okay, the last one, but definitely not least, is military service. For many feds, if they are not drawing a military retirement, it makes sense to buy back their military time, right? And making sure those dates are correct, all those things are documented well in your file, again, will make sure that OPM calculates your pension, your retirement, how it's supposed to be, and not underestimating or undercutting what you really deserve, right? As a federal employee, you deserve and you have rights to these benefits, and you want to make sure that you get everything that really you're supposed to get. That's what this comes to, is that you're just making sure you get everything that you deserve and getting the most out of it. And so you don't have to scramble, redo applications, do all these things in retirement, potentially postponing retirement. That's the worst time to get bad news, like, oh, we're missing this, we're missing that. Check these things, ideally years before, years out, as you go. Keep things updated so you don't have to deal with all the nitty-gritty paperwork and all that dirty stuff that no one likes to deal with right at retirement. Okay, that's my rant about checking your personnel folder for today. I hope this is helpful. Please take action on this. I have a bunch of content about your federal benefits, whether that's courses, I'll have it in the description, or my articles I write for FedSmith, or on my website, podcast, YouTube, all kinds of stuff. You have no excuse but to learn about what you have to get the very most out of it. Okay, I am done ranting for today. You guys have a great week, and I'll see you next time. And again, thank you for making it to the end of my video, the end of my podcast. I hope this brought value to you and your life. My goal with this content is to bring as much value to as many people as I possibly can. So please, if you can, if this brought value to you, please show your support, subscribe, hit the thumbs up, comment, give me feedback about what you want to hear about, what you want to learn about, and how you can get more value out of this, and so that I could do the very best I can to make this the best channel for my viewers, for my listeners, the very best I can. So again, thank you for being here and investing in yourself and in your future. And I will see you next week.